What is the most, how the hell is this my life right now, moment you've ever experienced? During COVID as a nurse, I was slammed and had 7 patients pulling me in 7 different directions with no help. And my manager came up to me and said some other big manager was coming to the unit to see it, so I need to dust the door frames around the unit. It was like one of those sitcom moments where you just stare at the camera like, is she serious right now? I'll just tell my patients to try to stop dying for a little bit while I do some housekeeping. I was inpatient at a psych hospital after a suicide attempt, and during one of the group therapy sessions, the therapist asked me my name, and I started crying because I didn't really know what to say to that. I was such a happy kid. My dad sold my childhood house and threw away most of my personal items that were there. I gave what remained to a friend to hold on to for safekeeping. When I was able to finally get my stuff from my friend's house, I brought it back to my mom's house, thinking that the remainder of the stuff would be safe there. My mom's house burnt down the next fucking day. Sitting in my college advisor's office hearing the words "you'll never be allowed back into this school" while I was looking out the window watching my dad walk by. He was a professor at that university. My 4 older siblings graduated from that university. My then girlfriend, now wife, thank God, and I met freshman year first semester. I remember thinking, what the fuck is happening? I didn't go to classes, and I was an alcoholic. Something switched in my brain during the same meeting, and I literally said to myself, nope, fuck that, I'm going to prove you wrong and get back in here somehow. I eventually did, after a couple of years of classes, an associate's degree and recommendation letter from professors at the university, when I figured out I could still take classes part-time. They actually said no twice, and I remember thinking, when I got the 3rd letter, I may have to go somewhere else. They accepted me back in, and I pretty much had to stay Dean's List for the last 3 years. I made it, and it was hard as shit. I did not stop drinking until after college, but that's another story. Flunking out was one of the worst things that ever happened to me. I went from sous chef at fine dining to military cook to match the salary after being laid off due to COVID. You can imagine I went from farm to table cooking, using every last bit of ingredients, working with precision and care, to we have to dump out food by the truckload and serving goop. Back in the early 1990s, went from a fun party pad to a tweaked out crack den in one summer, all because of one psycho roommate. It started out with cheap beer, then weed. Next thing I knew, my clothes and food were being stolen, and there were strangers doing lines off mirrors in the dining room. I bylaid fast. Fuck that shit. None of those shit stains ever went on to college. Not one. Christmas Eve, 1970-something. I can't remember the exact year, but it was 2 weeks after marijuana was decriminalized from a felony to a $100 ticket. It was also a little over a week after my 18th birthday, and I got busted with a quarter of a marijuana cigarette. When the policeman asked me if there was anything else, I said, no, see? And turned my cigarette pack upside down. That's when 2 crossed-up whites fell out of the pack, and I got arrested for possession of amphetamines. So there I was on Christmas Eve, about to be arraigned, or so I thought, on felony drug charges. It was bad enough being homeless, but now I was arrested and my entire family was overseas. About an hour later, the desk sergeant let me go. He said, the pills are in the evidence locker. If the DA wants to press charges, he will. And he let me go. I never heard from them again. I didn't stop to wonder how he thought they were going to find me, seeing as I had no address. But I do remember thinking, how the hell is this my life right now? Most of these are negative, so here's a positive one. I served in as an officer in the Marine Corps. I was deployed in the Pacific, and we were embarked upon a Navy ship. My company would conduct amphibious insertions ship to shore via a small rubber boat, CRRC Combat Rubber Raid Craft. I was the XO of the company, so I was responsible for ensuring all the boats were assembled, all the weapons and gear was drawn, and the company launched from the well deck of the Navy ship on time, almost always in the middle of the night. I was also responsible for ensuring we maintained accountability of all 1820 CRRCs while we were jetting across the ocean for 1020 nautical miles. I remember being off the coast of Australia in the middle of the night, in the rear of our formation of 18 CRRCs, in the pitch black, racing across the Pacific Ocean, looking through my nods trying to keep count of 18 IR chem lights attached to the back of the CRRCs that only were visible through nods, and just thinking, holy shit, I'm a 26-year-old kid here off the coast of Australia. Having all these awesome once-in-lifetime experiences, how is this my life right now? Definitely a moment I'll be 70 years old sipping whiskey on my porch remembering, among many others. When the words, "No, I won't sell LSD to you. You're my mom, I can't take your money. Just have some," came out of my mouth, I knew I had strayed far from the garden path, haha. March 2020, I'm in Europe on a study program. I get a random email at 2:00 a.m. telling us that the program is canceled. My country sends out an order for all citizens abroad to return immediately. We're told that chartered flights will save us. The charters never came. People are getting really sick. My mother doesn't call or text to check in. My dad doesn't speak to me either. My entire estranged family doesn't check in on me once. We don't talk to each other regardless, long story there. I was 20. My home was my dorm room, which I've been told I have to vacate in a matter of hours because European Union is closing all borders. I have to return to a country where I didn't have a place to go. And I was alone. Extremely long flights to leave cost 200%, 300%, 400% more. And all around me, I see good people doing horrible things because they're scared and desperate. That's when I knew when things were different and the world had changed. Hide in my place, I'm homeless. While a group of racist teenagers, I'm in Portugal, throws rocks at me, I literally asked myself, how the hell is this my life right now? New Year's Eve, relatively soon after a rough breakup, said yes to going out with some friends who lived across the country because what else was I gonna do? We went to a local punk show, then somehow got guest listed for a rave in a brewery. Someone gave me a bag of quality MDMA. I danced all night with one friend I'd always thought was smoking hot. She took me back to her place, took her clothes off, and suggested I do the same. It was at that point that the asterisk WTF, is this all real, hit me. We've been married for 15 years now. On a positive note, I recently moved into a nice apartment in the middle of a big city. I very often stand on my balcony with a cigarette just trying to grasp how I managed to achieve all of this considering my past. So that's my, how the hell is this my life moment. I'm living it right now. Few years back, peak Christmas rush, I was scrubbing actual human shit off the shop floor while getting yelled at by a customer because she had been waiting too long for service. A toddler had completely filled her nappy, which subsequently fell down. She was walking around looking for her parents, who weren't paying any attention to her, so she was smearing her turd-filled nappy like a snail trail while she looked. Her parents finally notice her, yell her name, which makes her jump, and she stamps her foot right into the nappy stomping shit like a small fountain. She then runs, to her parents crying, still with a shitty nappy on foot and now a shit-covered shoe on the other. No cunt bothered to help me clean up all this crap, but all my staff had a good chuckle whilst I was on my knees cleaning up this obstacle course of human excrement. Of course, getting shouted at by a customer because I wasn't helping her was just what I needed at that point. Working in retail is its own special version of hell. Back in 2023, my friend and I used to shoplift in a store near his house. One time he called me a wuss for not stealing alcohol for him. I went in the store, put it under my sleeve, took a $1 gum, and went to the cashier. I bought it, and when I went out, I saw police and him talking to them and pointing at me. I felt so angry and questioned my existence. 2 months after the incident, I found out he was baiting me and that he was the one meant to be in jail. He was on a list, just his name. They didn't have picture proof of how he looked. When I went in to shoplift the alcohol, he called the cops and told them I was the one with his name. I exited jail and ran to his house. I told his mother everything, and she kicked him out of the house.